FBI weaponization gets even worse. Peggy Noonan redefines Trump derangement syndrome. Guess who Joe left in charge of the debt debacle? And Elon Musk goes all Princess Bride on saving our country. This is Steve Elliott with Brian Connor, and the news is chock full. And Brian, we want this to be literally the best 15 minutes that our team has in a summary of what's going on in the news. Think we can pull that off?
No, don't put the bar too high, Steve. It's just us. Let's go.
We can do it. I mean, I think we can. Let's talk about the weaponization of the IRS, Brian. There's a lot that you've been covering in the morning briefings for our VIPs. And first of all, thanks to our VIPs for standing with us, for partnering with us. And if you're watching this on special invitation, we really need your help. We want you to become a VIP. These are some of the best aggregations of the news that you're going to get. We get these special video reports, discounts on our faxes. But Brian, let's get right to it. Weaponization of the Justice Department.
I'm telling you, Steve, every layer of this onion that you peel back, it just gets worse and worse. I mean, it's just like if you cut into an onion, it makes you cry, and it's almost what this is doing. It's having that kind of effect. I think with millions of Americans that look at what's going on, and yesterday's testimony was just, some of it was just heartbreaking. That one of the former agents, they moved this whole family, and then they suspended them, and they were basically homeless. They went weeks without their possessions. I mean, and then when they asked him at the end to comment, if what would you tell your colleagues? He told them not to do it. He told them to pray first, but then don't do it because this government will crush you.
Right.
And it was just really sobering and, I mean, spine tingling. I mean, I get chills just thinking about it now. Because, I mean, how far have we gone? The weaponization of the FBI, the Department of Justice, and so many different, what they call the three-letter alphabet agencies. It really is just chilling.
And this is on top of what happened with the release of the Durham report. But I want to look at this. This is from one of the agents, and this goes back to, Brian. It was Revolver News. To give them a lot of credit, they were right at the forefront of saying, "Look, the thing that happened on January 6th, this was fomented by government agents," and everyone thought they were crazy. But now listen to this testimony.
Those individuals were inside the Capitol, to which the SSA responded back, and I was privy to these conversations firsthand. Why can't you show us? Why can't you just send us give us access to the 11,000 hours of video of this exam that's available? Because there may be UC's undercover officers or CHS's confidential human sources on those videos whose identity we need to protect.
So, Mr. Allen, you got
right. It's unbelievable. I mean, not only we have agents basically getting shunned, blackballed, and now we have this agent saying, "Listen, we weren't given the footage because they didn't want to release the footage because they knew they had all those undercover agents on the ground, basically breaking the law as part of this coup." Fomenting the coup. They didn't want that footage to get out, Brian.
Yeah, it makes it very difficult to trust anybody in government, because that was FBI Director Christopher Wray testified before Congress. And I think just before you cut the clip, I think that's one of the points that Matt Gaetz, Republican congressman from Florida, was going to make, that, Chris Wray testified before Congress that no, there were no FBI plants, there were no government, informants or undercover officers there, and yet the whistleblower saying the exact opposite. Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. And of course, the news of the week started with the Durham report, and you featured a Wall Street Journal, op-ed. The fault rests with an arrogant leadership that discarded the usual layers of oversight. A seventh floor, meaning the top of the FBI, that took charge with no regard for rules, little care for truth, and no accountability from above. I mean, it's actually a devastating indictment on what's been going on in the FBI.
Well, they kind of leave that open-ended. If you really read between the lines there, Steve, from above. Well, above, who is above? Right. Are we talking about, guys like Comey and McCabe, Or are we talking about then Vice President Biden, President Obama? How far up does this reach?
Well, the answer is yes, right? And we know the answer is yes, because in July of 2016, both Biden, Vice President Biden, and President Obama were briefed on this entire situation. That the U.S. intelligence was pretty sure that this was bogus from the start. They had nothing. They knew they had nothing except for it was. They also knew it was actually coming from Hillary Clinton's camp. So they knew it was a political attack from a political opponent against the Republican nominee. And they basically rubber stamped it and said, go ahead with Crossfire Hurricane. So it goes all the way to the top, Brian. It absolutely does go all the way to the top. And even worse than that, Brian, well, worse than that, but in addition to that, you've got the fact that the Durham report reveals the FBI shut down 4 criminal investigations into the Clintons. It just does not seem to end.
You know, if they ever want to teach a college university course on the 2-tiered justice system that exists in the United States of America, the Durham report is your case study.
Right.
I mean, there really should be, law enforcement, criminal justice, government courses that are taught just based on the 306 pages from this report, because it's scandalous.
It actually is. And, the crazy thing is a lot of people, I can't even say the left anymore. I don't even know what you call it. It's not really the political left as much as it's the deep state. It's the uniparty. It's Peggy Noonan, who you didn't even feature this from, Brian, because it was
good segue, Steve.
Objectionable to you, I know personally. You just as someone who worked at CNN in journalism, this was too much. Look at this. Listen to this from Peggy Noonan, who redefines Trump derangement syndrome. Another aspect that contributed to Trump Russia is that Mr. Trump was such a shock to the system of experienced people. Listen to the elitist tone of this, Brian. Experienced people in positions of authority in the professions, very much including government. He was so impossible to imagine as president, such an obviously bad man, and such a threat to our country that otherwise temperate and responsible people found themselves willing to believe anything about him. He was such a bad man, Brian, that we had to lie and fabricate and use the levers of the government illegally against the nominee of our political opponents. This is far worse than Watergate. I mean, let's be clear. What happened is far worse than Watergate. It's not even close.
Not even close.
Peggy Noonan justifying the whole thing because Trump is a orange man bad.
Orange man bad.
Does it ever end?
Well, honestly, Peggy Noonan owes her 2017 Pulitzer Prize for commentary to Donald Trump. Yeah. Let's go to the Wayback Machine, Steve. We're going to go way back to 2016. To this very, very prescient. And in fact, that's what the Pulitzer committee said, that her prescient pieces on Donald Trump and the political uprising his candidacy represented. This is what she wrote February 25th, 2016. Okay. I keep thinking on how Donald Trump got to be the very likely Republican nominee. Okay. And I'm going to fast forward here. I think I am seeing it now grow into an overall political dynamic throughout the West, capitalized West. There are the protected and the unprotected. The protected make public policy. The unprotected live in it. The unprotected are starting to push back powerfully. What you just read, that elitist tone and everything that, was her perspective that she so broadly and openly shared against Trump, is the same thing that she actually recognized and admitted was the reason behind that political movement and the one that continues today. If she's going to talk like that, if she's going to be like the George Will, David French, Bill Kristol Republicans, the old GOP vanguard, they're going to be left behind. Well, because there's clearly something wrong happening. And if you can't say that about what happened in D.C., and what happened with the attacks on Trump, what we've been calling for years, the war on Trump, without trying to stab him in the back again, I just think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's almost too much to bear. Yeah, because she wins a Pulitzer for recognizing that something was actually happening in our society, and now the bad man must be stopped at any cost. Brian, we must move on to We're calling it. Please, let's move on. Grassfire is reporting that Joe refuses to negotiate over the Dems' debt debacle. This is despite the fact that the Dems are pretending to negotiate. Maybe you can explain a little bit. Give us 30 seconds.
It's about semantics right now. They continue to say we're negotiating, but we're not negotiating about the debt limit. And there was a White House communications director that was on MSNBC this week. We have that in one of the stories that's on grassfire.com, where he said it's a budget negotiation. It's an appropriations negotiation. They refuse to call it a debt limit negotiation because they don't want to, from my perspective, what I can see, they don't want to negotiate on the debt limit. They want to be given a limitless credit card. We don't want to have any kind of restraints on us. We want to spend whatever we want to spend and however much we think to spend. And in my view, to continue to buy votes and continue to push America down the path to a recession and economic ruin. And so they're going to say that, we're not negotiating the debt limit. Well, they better, because it doesn't look like the Republicans are ready to roll over and cave in just yet.
And there's enough Republicans that are standing and saying, no, we're going with the McCarthy plan. That's the plan. So that's going to be a strong. And of course, just to show how serious Joe Biden is about this, how serious in air quotes, guess who he put in charge, Brian? Just guess. There she is.
Kamala Harris. The border czar.
The border
She's doing such a bang-up job with the illegal immigration catastrophe.
Yes, he put her in charge. And so all is well in America because now Kamala is in charge. Oh, I feel so much better now, Brian.
I don't feel good at all, Steve.
You don't feel good at all.
I don't feel good about the qualifications or the ability of anyone in this administration right now.
And the reason why none of us are feeling good is battered by inflation. 90 million Americans struggling to pay bills are using credit cards more and more. So in some ways, they're showing, consumer spending looks okay. It looks okay because Americans are using their credit cards at alarming rates. And look at this also, Brian. It gets even worse if you look at that personal income.
I don't want to look, Steve.
You don't want to look? You don't want
Think about, sorry to cut you off, but that credit card thing, it's not only the people using their credit cards.
Yeah.
They've had 10 increases in the prime rate. And it's like everybody that I know, my credit cards are tied to the prime rate. It was great. Under Donald Trump and previous administration, because they kept interest rates low. But now that they've continued, like if you got a card that was at 13 or 14, you're up into 18 or maybe higher.
Yeah.
And that's what's killing people too. Because I noticed recently on one of my credit cards, all of a sudden I'm paying more. Like they changed the rules where all of a sudden my payment went up like 21% from one month to the next.
Right.
Like a credit card bill that might have been $100 is $121.
Right.
You're looking at it going, wait, what happened?
Right.
So your money is worth less.
And
you're spending more.
And make it even worse, we had 7% inflation on top of 6% inflation on top of 7% inflation 2 years in a row. While real earnings, this is real weekly wages, have gone down. Now, that entire green span you see on there on the screen, Brian?
Let me guess.
The Trump presidency. The entire red span you see is the Biden presidency. So not only is inflation up, but our wages are down and our credit card debt is up. And on top of that, now we've got the Democrats who don't want to negotiate to control government spending. Brian, we got to move on. We're running out of time. Our VIPs, we're on top of the border crisis. It's one of our two key issues right now. The debt ceiling and the border crisis. You've got facts fires on both those issues. You can take action on, and it's very, very important stuff that we're dealing with right now. Just a couple 2024 updates, Brian. You're showing that DeSantis next week. Is that right?
That's what the report was. And then also Chris Christie and Glenn Youngkin. There's a lot of people that appear to be ready to throw their hats in the ring with the others who are already.
Because we're in the great Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm just going to throw the Glenn Youngkin. He put this, I think he went to the Reagan Library and did this video, really smart. I think he's actually putting his head, he's dipping his toes in the waters of the vice presidential nod, in my opinion, Brian. That's my guess. He probably thinks he can be president, but I would say he's a possible vice president for any of the top candidates, and even perhaps Trump, because Trump probably wouldn't want to pick DeSantis. I would imagine wouldn't go there. All right, Brian, I want to close with one more thing that happened.
Can't leave this out, Steve. We already teased it. It's in there.
We already teased it. We can't leave it out.
One of the highlights of the week. Anytime you can quote Princess Bride,
yeah,
that's a good thing.
Well, let's just take a look at this. This is Elon Musk recently. Now I'm cutting in this after he was asked by this reporter, all seriously, how can you say all those things that you're saying on Twitter, and it's causing all your investors and people in Tesla, it's causing great disturbance. After like a 10-second pause, here's what Musk said.
You know, I'm reminded of there's a scene in The Princess Bride. Great movie.
Great movie.
Where he confronts the person who killed his father.
Inigo Montoya.
Offer me money. Offer me power. I don't care.
So you just don't care. You want to share what you have to say.
Well, Brian, that's one of our favorite movies, and he didn't quite get the line right, but the sentiment.
Well, he actually cleaned it up a little bit, you know.
Yes.
But that was the point. Offer me money. Offer me anything I ask for.
Yeah.
You know, all that I have and more. And then he says, I want my father back. Like, it doesn't matter what you give me. I want what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, obviously, Elon Musk wants to speak truth. He wants to ensure and protect freedom of speech.
Right.
And, you know, he's got enough money, more money than probably anyone could ever spend. And, you know, I saw something today. He posted, I've got spaceships. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Who posts that on Twitter?
Right.
I guess the owner. You know,
Yeah.
He's not beholden to anyone, which is a great thing.
And that's the key. And I think that's one of the strengths, Brian, of what we've done here at Grassfire for these many years, working together and rallying hundreds of thousands of citizens, reporting truth and taking action, is that Grassfire's not beholden to anyone. You know, we are truly an independent voice of grassroots conservatives. And if you're not a VIP and you're watching this on special invitation, please become a VIP. There's a host of benefits, discounts on our faxes. You get these special video reports. You're first to get our video reports, first to get our morning briefings, and there's other benefits. We really do need your help. It's a critical time in our country. And, you know, we will fight it alone if we have to, but we'll do better fighting together. And that's what we want to do at Grassfire. So, Brian, thank you. And thank you to our VIPs and our team members. And have a great day. This is Steve Elliott for Brian Connor.